You are listening to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. There is a lot of intense, big energy this week, a lot of forceful energy. Not a lot of transits, but possibly one of the most potent weeks of the year. So let's go ahead and get into it. Last week, I talked about 3 transits that were going to line up Sunday, April 20th, possibly starting the week off with a little heat, a little irritation. There could have felt like there was a lot to do, a lot of ego tensions, too many cooks in the kitchen, and just people getting on the nerves. But also crazy, vivid dreams, angel numbers, and other messages that seem to be speaking to us specifically, which was wild, telling us something about some changes or just, helping us make a decision about something. There's going to be a lot of duality happening this week, a lot of crossroad energy that's going on. So that's pretty much all that's going on until we skip down to Wednesday, April 23rd. That's going to be our next big transit. The Sun in Taurus is going to square Pluto in Aquarius. This is a very activating transit, bringing a lot of attention to the Taurus areas of our chart. In the Pluto area, there is this T square going on where we are building up to this opposition between Mars and Aquarius. Both of those energies squaring that Sun in Taurus. So this is kind of happening in phases. And so what's happening is that we are bringing attention to the things that we're trying to build in the real world, who we think we are, how we identify with ourselves and our purpose, the things we want to do, the things that we have, also what our motivations are, what we want to do, and how we get the things that we want. So those are going to be a lot of the rest of the month's focus. And even into May, we're going to be thinking about what we want, why we want it, and how we go about getting that, and also what needs to transform and change. So Taurus energy is all about the material world. It's the things that we can see, taste, and touch. It's what we want to nurture. It's what we want to cultivate. This is what we want to build in the material world. So you can think about things like our skills and our home, like our actual property and structure, our home life, and how we tend to that, our bodies, our spiritual home being our bodies, and our financial frameworks, and any and everything that sustains or brings a sense of security in this lifetime. That is what that Taurus energy is about. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius, and that is going to be discussing what needs to be torn down and to be transformed, to be rebuilt in accordance to our authentic self expression, how to build something that reflects our authenticity, how we create and carve out our true lane with no masks, and how we come to serve and do things for other people or the humanity or society, and not just for our own ego gratification. How we do something that's good for ourselves and for humanity. So Pluto is sitting in the same spot at 3 degrees of Aquarius. It is not moving. It's getting ready to station retrograde May 4th. So it's at a standstill, and it is hovering right over that 3-degree mark, that 3-degree point in Aquarius. So if you have any points or planets there, you're definitely going to be feeling this. Some of the themes that we can see on a larger scale when it comes to this transit is the gutting of certain systems. On a world stage, we can see, things happening with housing systems and healthcare and insurance and government assistance programs and things like that. Things that have to do with our own security and how we sustain ourselves, and the things that we could depend on for safety um, in the world. So we can see things like that with this transit. And personally, this dynamic can look like situations happening with jobs and income, money situations, home, security, property, unforeseen expenses, and things like that. Just things that are maybe unfortunate and kind of scary that make us feel kind of unsafe could happen this week. Or this could be a theme that we've already been dealing with. And also these inner transformations that make us feel like, well, we don't know who we are or which way we're going. Things feel lost in the sauce. We could kind of feel like we're in a sunken place. And this could feel very threatening to our resources, like our money, our homes, and our bodies. Some of us could be having some type of health or body issues going on right now. And, it could be really scary because we are self-reliant, and maybe we are not in a position to be as self-reliant and as independent as we are used to being. So there's something being shaken up there. But what's happening is that there is an intervention and an activation taking place to dismantle some things that we are still holding on to, but that is no longer in alignment for us. And so even if it feels like we're being taken out by forces that we can't control, we are being assisted into some type of intervention that is going to help us get to the next level or get to a space and a place that we have stated that we wanted in our lives. So these types of upheavals can make us feel like we're in survival mode. We're in a state of survival. We could be in fight or flight and really wanting to fight to defend and to protect something of ours. This could also be globally, where we want to take a stand for something that we feel is being threatened to be taken away from us. But that's kind of the point, to show up and act locally and think globally to find power from a disempowering situation. Just remember that we can turn things around and make some things shake, but there is a need to surrender and trust back into so that is where the Pisces and Virgo parts of our charts are speaking to us as well, saying there is a need to trust, there's a need to surrender, and there's a need to let something go because there are bigger and better things being built that we can't see yet. Some of this can be very triggering, especially if we have been holding on to people, things, notions, certain types of behaviors and thoughts and habits that no longer fit our lives, but we're really attached to. That could be something that could feel very hard right now and could have us feeling just kind of out of sorts. But ultimately, we're going to be thinking about this week what's not working for us. And if we have planets or points at 3 degrees of the fixed signs, being Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you are feeling this energy for sure. Could feel like you're in a sunken place right now, but that is going to pass. We are going to have some lighter energy coming up next week, but this week could definitely feel very hard. Then Thursday, April 24th, Venus conjuncts Saturn in Pisces, and this is giving us yet another spiritual warning. So when I think about this transit, I imagine a cautionary warning or maybe a sit down on a porch from a wise elder. And that elder is asking us to take something more seriously, to stand on business about something, the Venusian themes. So this could pertain to our jobs or health goals, creativity, money, our connections and relationships, and the things that we feel worthy to have, and or the things that we tend to overindulge in or use to escape, because Venus does represent sweets and things that we find pleasure in. And so our wise elder is warning us to listen to the spiritual messages that we've been receiving and to understand that we are not lost, but we may be lacking the spiritual discipline to go the way that we know we're supposed to go and to get the things that we have asked the universe to give us. Saturn says, you know what to do. You can make life easier for yourself. And Venus likes ease and harmony. So she's kind of with that. So she's listening. This transit is letting us know that it's up to us to accept this spiritual clarity and to really follow our intuition and go with those prophetic dreams and those messages and really listen to what is being said to us in the spiritual realm, so that we could have that spiritual discipline to do something amazing for ourselves. We want to pay attention to something that's been falling off or that we've been letting fall by the wayside, or something that we've been attached to that is really keeping us away from our own peace and fulfillment and the joy that we ask for in this life. Then Saturday, April 26th, we have the big transit of the week and one of the biggest transits of the year. We have Mars in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. So this is kind of like the big boss fight between two opposing parts of our lives right now. This is a very potent transit that will influence the rest of the month. So this week we could face a lot of life-changing situations and circumstances. There could be realizations about ourselves and the things that we're pursuing, and how these two opposing parts of our lives are in some sort of standoff with each other. Maybe there is one that is being neglected while we're trying to give attention to the other, and that's starting to affect our lives in its entirety. But this is really bringing us to some sort of crossroads or breaking point, something we could be struggling with and have been struggling with for a while. So perhaps this could look like addictions or escapist behavior versus our own health, our lack of sleep or our poor sleep hygiene affecting our daily routines and things like that. This could look like the money we earn versus the money we have to share with others, and how that could be out of alignment or draining our relationships versus our identity and freedom, our kids versus our hopes and dreams, or our own joy, creativity, and childlike fun versus the organizations and communities that we feel connected to that could feel stifling in some way. So, something in these two particular areas of our lives could feel like a life storm, or we could feel lost and confused, or like we're having some kind of breakdown, especially if we are attached to control and knowing all the steps and having all the things figured out. This is the third opposition between Mars and Pluto in Aquarius since November 2024. So you want to think back to what was coming up into your awareness, what was coming up that you realized, maybe I need to change, tweak this, or just something that, coming up that kind of fell out of alignment, a little nudge or something like that. And now that this is the third time around, maybe it's very loud. There's just some shit we can't do anymore. It's just like, listen, I can't keep going on like this. Something got to change. Or something happens and it feels like we can't get through it. So sometimes these can bring these cathartic situations that feel like, a spiritual death and transformation and rebirth, not a literal death or anything like that. Although sometimes literal deaths are a part of a process of transformation and rebirth that feels so hard, like we can't get through something. But we just want to know that there's power and transformation on the horizon for us. There are things unfolding for us, and things are not going to look the same as they do now in the next few months, because there are a lot of, magical things I feel like happening, a lot of things that we have been contending to, we have been working on, and we are going to see the reaping of some of those seeds that we have been planting. Now, this transit between Mars and Pluto can bring some hard goodbyes that we may not feel ready for, some triggers and conflicts. And like I said, these goodbyes don't have to mean like a death. They could be goodbyes to certain people, jobs, situations, and just the ways of doing things. Maybe it's goodbye to certain eating habits and, just the way that we've been going along to get along. And like I said, so some triggers and conflicts that could be revealing some very powerful truths that will ultimately benefit us at the end. So whatever's changing right now is for our highest good. And then the very next day, we do have that new moon in Taurus where we are setting new intentions and building new things for ourselves and putting in new questions of what to do next. What do I do now that I have perhaps ended this other thing? Which way do I go? And I am going to actually save that talk for next week. I think I might record next Sunday so we can just keep this one kind of short and sweet and really ponder on like the energies that's happening this week, because it could be really heavy. So just a quick recap, because we are done for the week. We could all feel the need to make some serious changes and adjustments, or cutting something out completely. We could be up against some very powerful ego and power dynamics happening this week that could feel really hard, overwhelming, and scary as we try to contend with these two areas of life that could bring us into some type of new decision or new choices or even new opportunities or new pathways. So we want to take a serious look at our relationships and our money and our healthcare routines and the aspirations and desires that we said we wanted, our values, all those things, and apply the spiritual messages and angel numbers and guidances and talks with wise elders and wise counselors that we've been receiving about these topics, and really take that serious and apply that to a decision that we may have been holding off, but we now know it's do it now or, be dealt with in a certain sense. There's a decision that needs to be made. Also, just know that you are worthy, that you're not messing anything up, that you are not messed up, and that the right discipline can change everything. Even though what's happening can feel very hard or detrimental for somebody right now, things are all working out and they are happening for our highest good. And this is where we lean on surrender, lean on trust, lean on the collaboration with spirit, understand that we are being carried and we're being connected and collaborated with. We take the two steps towards God as God takes those two steps towards us. And that is all I have for this week. So I will see you next week when we talk about that new moon in Taurus, bringing us some grounded energy, putting a little earth back into the fire situation and all the water that's been happening. And I will talk to you next week. Bye bye. You are listening to the Free Spirit Astrology Podcast.